Hi, math teachers. Today we are going to talk about Jamboard, which is my jam. Jamboard's awesome. If you have already been using it, good. If not, I'm going to go through some of the basics. But for those of you who've already started using it, try to shoot some ideas at you that you may not have thought of before, I hope. Everybody knows that I am a languages person, so math is my challenge. But I am a good student. I try really hard when it comes to math. So that being said, you all are the masters, and so we will have a segment at the end of this where you can share some ideas of your own that maybe pop up as we're going through this video. So please participate in that if you will. So first of all, what is Jamboard? Jamboard essentially is a collaborative digital whiteboard. So think about Active Inspire. When you are on a frame in Active Inspire, it's very similar. Now, Active Inspire has a lot more bells and whistles than Jamboard does, but the keyword there that is the difference is collaborative. So it is part of the Google Apps for Education suite. You will find it as one of the apps in your waffle or your 9 grid that I like to call it. And it's one of those things that is just like a Google Doc or sheet or slides that you can share it with your students. They can collaborate in real time. And you can also assign a Jamboard in Classroom, which is really exciting. Now, Jamboard originally was an idea by Google to try to promote this somewhat expensive whiteboard that they were trying to, I think, sell as a competitor to Promethean board and to Smartboard, and I don't think that worked out too well for them because shortly thereafter they released it as part of the Google Apps for Education suite that really anyone can use. You can use Jamboard obviously on your laptop. Kids can use it on their Chromebooks, and there is a Jamboard app, just like the Google Docs app, just like the Google Drive app. So if students have a device like an iPad, they could put that Google Jamboard app on their iPad, if we're talking about math students, or on their cell phone, and they could actually write with their finger when they are solving problems. So that is something to consider. Now, I know that not every student is going to have access to something like that. And you obviously cannot tell them to add an app on their cell phone or iPad. But if that's an option, make sure that they know that that's something that they can do. So we're going to talk about how to get to Jamboard right now and what are the basics of Jamboard. So as I said before, there are essentially 2 ways that you can get to Jamboard. One of those is to go to the waffle right here. So my Jamboard happens to be right here. You may have to scroll all the way down. It may be hiding down there, but it looks like a J for Jamboard. You may or may not know this, but all of your apps are rearrangeable very easily, similar to how you can rearrange your apps on a cell phone. So I can just simply drag this Jamboard wherever I would like it to be. So for me, now I'm using this a lot more often, so I want it a little bit higher up so it appears there very quickly. The other thing you can do if you want to quickly get to a Jamboard is just simply type in jamboard.google.com. And once you do that, it will open up kind of like docs and slides. When you go to docs.google.com or slides.google.com, it opens up your back end view of all of the jams or Jamboards that you have done so far. And to start a new one, you're just going to go to this plus sign right here for a new jam. Okay. So let's quickly talk about, as I said before, what are the basics of Jamboard. Side note here, I discovered this today, there is a max of 20 frames. So instead of slides, like in Google Slides, you will see it referred to as frames. There's a max of 20 frames allowed in any Jamboard, but you could create multiple Jamboards if you needed more than 20 frames, okay? And then let's talk about what are the basics here. So I'm going to go through some of the tools really quickly. All right, so just to get you started right up here, this is your frame bar that shows you all of the different frames that you have created. So let's say that I have done And you can see I'm adding multiple frames here. So this is similar to Active Inspire. If you think about that, I'm adding different frames to my presentation here in Jamboard. And you can go through all of these different ones. There are 3 little dots next to each frame. So just so you can see, as you click on that, you could duplicate one or you could delete it, okay? The other cool thing about this is that, you know, as you go along, you can move these frames around. So I'll show you in just a little bit when I actually have some content on my different frames, how that's helpful. Okay, so again, I can scroll through 1 through 5 up here, or I can drop that down and I can scroll through that way. Okay. All right, so up here, there is an option to completely clear your frame. If you've been doing some handwriting on your frame, you can change the background, which we'll especially talk about for our math teachers, can be very, very helpful in having, obviously, that nice graph paper there. Maybe you need just straight lines. And you can also do kind of the grayed out graph paper as well, okay? You can zoom in or out if you need to get in there a little bit bigger if you're working with a class, if you're demonstrating something, and just go right back to fit when you're done. Okay, so cool thing that you can change the background there. Pens. When you click on this, you'll have 4 different options. You can have a pen, a marker, which is a little bit thicker, a highlighter, or a brush. Now, usually you're either going to be using the pen or the marker, and you have basically 6 color options here. So it's very simplified. And again, you could use this to write different things or demonstrate something along the way. This would be a great thing to use in conjunction if you have an XP pen or one of the Wacom Intuos, or if you're lucky enough to have your own iPad that you use, you certainly could use this as you are instructing students in a Google Meet. You could share your screen, that sort of a thing. And we're going to talk about more ideas as we go along. So I'm just going to go ahead and clear that frame from the pen. But just to show you kind of the thickness there, that's the marker thickness. Sometimes I like that. I prefer that to the pen. The highlighter thickness there you can see. And then the brush is more like a artistic brush stroke. All right, I'm going to clear my frame, and you can clear the entire frame, or if you just need to erase a specific thing that you have written, you can use the eraser here. There, of course, is our cursor or select tool. Now, this I will get into more detail of different ways you can use this, but you can add a sticky note. So I'm just going to put hello here. Okay, you have different colors that you can use, and once you're done with it, you click Save. You'll see it's inserted it behind me there, and click Cancel when you're ready to be done with that. Okay, so any sticky note, you can drag it in any spot that you want to. You can pivot it if you want to. 3 dots mean that you can duplicate it or delete it or go back and edit it. Maybe I want to make this blue instead, okay? Now, if you, I'll show you in a little while how this can become really powerful, but if you need to duplicate, as simple as doing that, or of course you can do your normal Control-C, Control-V, and it will duplicate those sticky notes that you can move all over your page, okay? So let's go to a different frame here and talk about inserting images. Pretty powerful thing here. So let's say that you have an image of a math problem. You have an image of anything, an architectural building that you want to talk about in geometry. Anything you can either upload locally from your computer. So if you saved it to your desktop, or maybe you saved it to your H drive, you can get it there. You can do a Google image search. You can go straight into your drive, anything that you have saved there. Maybe you took a picture on your phone of something and then you saved it to your Google Drive. Using the Drive app, you can pull an image there, or you can look in your Google Photos. So let's just do an image search for a parabola. Okay. And I like this one, and I'm going to select that. And just like with the sticky note, you can drag it out. You can make it as big as you want to. Depending on the image that you select, it could be really nice and bright and crisp, or it could be a little bit pixelated as you drag it out. That's just going to depend on the image. And again, you can duplicate this or delete it. So a great option there to add images. Shapes is another option. Let me use another one here to do that. So you can insert different shapes. Let's say that you're creating a Venn diagram to compare something. You can do that. Just a side note here, they're pretty much always going to land on top of each other right here, which really doesn't help in the Venn diagram example. But quick little thing that's easy, you go right here to the fill color and you actually make it, nope, I'm sorry, yes, that's correct. You make it transparent and then you can have a nice little Venn diagram there. So all sorts of shapes, not a huge variety, but some simple shapes there that could help you in different math concepts or geometry or even just organizing thoughts, okay? And again, like anything, you have your 3 dots like we talked about before. Now with the shapes, you can order them, so you can send them to the back or the front, for example. This one's on top, so now I'm going to send it to the back so that it is below that other one. That one's transparent. This one is not transparent, so you can see how that works there with the ordering of the shapes. And let's actually take that one and bring it back to the front so you can see that as well. Okay, last couple of elements basics here. You can add text. Okay. Okay. Like most anything within the Google suite, you can drag this out. You have different size options. And you have the same basic 6 colors that you can change for that. And you can also center it if you would like to. Okay, so there we have that. Okay, just like the sticky notes, you can tilt it if you would like, and the 3 dots, you can duplicate, edit, or delete. And finally, really cool, you have a laser pointer here. It kind of comes in and then it fades away. So if you need to draw attention to anything that you are writing, you can certainly do that. And as you do that, you can drag your laser pointer and zero in on whatever it is that you would like to do as you are instructing. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a good background on Jamboard, how to get to it, either through the waffle or at jamboard.google.com. Okay, so now let's talk about sharing it. Okay, so this is what kind of takes Jamboard to the next level when we are comparing Jamboard to Active Inspire software or something like that. It's that share option right there. Reminder, I always say 3 dots equals more options in anything Google, whether it's Classroom or Drive or a Google Doc. So here's where you can rename your jam. So today, this was just my little test for math. Okay. You can download it as a PDF. So maybe you worked out something and you want to share it with your class as a PDF. You could save that frame as an image. So you're just saving this one frame. You can delete it. You can make a copy of it. If you do that, it actually, just like everything else, names it copy of, and you can go ahead and choose where you want that in your Google Drive. Okay. And then finally, you can send feedback to Google. So if there's something that you would like added to Jamboard, you could certainly suggest it right there, okay? So this is what I wanted to get to, share. This is the biggie. So let's say we're working with one group, or we're working with multiple groups, or we're working with one student, or we're working with 2 whole classes. That is up to you. Just like anything else, Google Docs, slides, etc., you do have the same share option. So you could make it where anyone at Greenville County Schools could view that. So maybe you're just using it as a teaching device. You could do that. Now, I know this is scary for a lot of people, including me, but you can set it where anyone in Greenville County School is the editor. So every single student that you share that link with can be working on it at the exact same time, okay? So that might be a great idea if let's say you're doing a tutoring session with 3 students, you could share the link with those 3 students so they could come in and work on it. You could have it set to restricted, but then instead of making it anyone in Greenville County Schools, you could simply type in the email addresses of those people that you want to share it with right there, okay? And then, of course, lastly, you could go way out and make it where anyone with the link could either view or edit it. So some options there. As we look at ideas coming up, we're going to talk about how this is powerful in Google Classroom as well. Okay. So let's just double check and make sure I haven't missed anything. Yep. So I talked about adding specific people or making it where anyone in Greenville County Schools with a link could either view or edit it. Okay. And let's actually go back while we're here and talk about putting it in Classroom. So let's say, for example, that this is something that I want my students to work through during this week. So each frame on this Jamboard, I want them to work through one of the problems. These are problems for the week, okay? So all I'm going to need to do is go into my Google Classroom, and I'm just going to pull up a test class here. I'm going into classwork, and I am going to create a new assignment, okay? So these are my math problems for the week. Okay, and now I'm giving them some instructions. Okay. Maybe I give it a due date of being due on the 1st of October. Okay. You might could add it into a certain topic. So maybe you have a topic that's math problems for the week, or you have a topic that is the range of dates for that week, September 28th through October 1st. This is the biggie right here. So I'm going to add from Google Drive, and it should be under recent because I just got through working on it. Now remember that the Jamboard symbol kind of looks like a J, kind of looks like a lowercase d as well, but it kind of looks like a J right there, and there's that test math Jamboard that I just was working on. So I'm going to insert that, and just like before, you want to change it to make a copy for each student. Okay, so what I've done now basically is created a workspace that the kids can come in and work on just like they would in a Google Doc. And you may be using that with math. You might be using Kami with working out problems that you assess during the week. But now I have made a Jamboard with different slides that they have to go through, or different frames, and complete for that week. And I'm just going to assign that, okay? So just like a Google Doc, it would make one for each student with their name that you could go in and access as they're working on that. Now, you may say on your end, okay, as they're working through this, what are some options for them? Because we all know that it is a little bit difficult to write with a mouse or on their trackpad. It's not impossible, but they can do that. So that's one thing that they could do. Like I said before, they could use the Jamboard app on their phone or on an iPad if that's an option for them. We're not telling them that they have to do that, but if that's an option for them, they can do that. The other big thing is, of course, that they can use their Chromebook camera, which is built in to their Chromebook, to actually take a picture of their work and then go in and insert it. They would find it in their Google Drive right there, or students also will have an option that'll say files up here. So they could use that Chromebook camera, take a picture, and then insert it into this Jamboard once they've done their work on that problem. And it's kind of nice because it keeps it all in one place for you. So they can work through these throughout the week. You could even title the different ones with dates. So for example, you could use a sticky note, or you could use the text option. And let's say, for example, that this is really, really complicated equation for today. I could label that with September 1st, okay, or September 28th, we'll say, sorry. Okay. So there it is for today's date. Okay. All right, so I think that's really powerful that you can use that share option, or you can as well make that a assignment in classroom for make a copy for each student. Okay, let's go back here and now let's talk about what I really want to dig into today, which is when could I actually use Jamboard in the math classroom. So you can use it two ways, and I'm going to give specific ideas in a moment, but again, you can use it for synchronous learning. So if you are on those Google Meets and you are doing office hours, you are doing direct teaching to your virtual kids, when they are with you, you could be on a Google Meet. You could pull up a Jamboard that you've already maybe taken a picture of something and inserted it, and now you're going to work out that problem with your XP pen. You can use it in a Google Meet Live. You could share it with the students as a link in Classroom and change the share settings on your Jamboard. Again, remember those are found right here to where, and you can see I've already shared this with one of my classes, to where they could edit that Jamboard live, so you could have everybody working on it. And I'll talk specifically about how to do that with big groups of students in just a moment. But synchronous, you could use it as a teaching tool, just you, pulling it up, sharing your screen in a Google Meet, and using that as your whiteboard space as you are instructing with Jamboard. Or, as we talked about just a second ago with Google Classroom, you could use it in asynchronous learning to assign students something to work on, either as make a copy for each student, or either, if you're doing group work, you can make Jamboards and just assign them to certain students to work together. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at some specific ideas for using Jamboard that are kind of beyond what I've talked about already. And I will be sharing out this presentation at the end so you can see some of these different links. Okay, so some Jam ideas for math. All right, so this is an example again. Remember that background, you can change it, of where I've taken different pictures, inserted them in, and then given instructions using a sticky note. So let's talk about some tips and tricks really quickly. We talked about backgrounds, that you can actually change the background of your Jamboard frame in order to help you out there. You can reorder your frames. So let's say, for example, that this is my assignment for the week. All I do is simply pull down this bar right here, and I can move around anything that I want to. So you can reorder those. If you decide that this is supposed to be for Wednesday, but you actually want it for Monday, you can drag it all the way to the beginning, okay? So that's a great thing to know. You can also, when you are looking at all the different jams that you have, again, you click on this icon right here to look at all the different Jamboards that you've created along the way. This may be helpful if you're looking at different assignments from different months. You can actually look at it in a grid view like this, or if you drop down, it's actually a row view. So it shows each jam and shows all of the different slides. So I can actually move it right here, or all the different frames, I should say, that are on one jam. So that might help you if you're previewing something and saying, okay, was this last week or next week? You can go again from that grid view. Let me go back here, sorry about that. From the grid view to row view. So that's kind of a nice perk there. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about is that you can use a clear sticky note for easy text. So let's say, for example, that I don't want to go through the issue of typing something in, okay, changing the color. So I can do that by going right here, then centering it, then changing. I don't want to go through all that, okay? I just want some quick text. One way to do that is to use a sticky note and just make it clear. So today's lesson. Okay. And when you do that, it inserts the same text. It's a clear background. You can move it around just like you can with the text option down here. You can pivot it, do all those great things. So again, just kind of a super easy way to quickly insert text by creating a sticky note that is actually clear. Okay. A few more tips and tricks here. And this one actually is probably the best one for math people, is that if you hold down the shift key, so you start by pressing and holding down that shift key, it gives you a straight line in Jamboard. So, for example, let's go back to this slide, and I'm going to change the background to my red here. Okay, and I am going to, let's do the pen, so kind of the thin there, and let's say that I want to make a nice little line here. So I'm going to start, I'm holding down my shift key right now, and you can see it's making me a nice straight line. I can move it around wherever I want to, or I can line it up and drop it right there. Okay, if I were not to use the shift key, you can see, okay, I'm trying to draw a straight line here. Not happening very good. So, or very well. So I'm going to try that again. Holding down the shift key. I've got my pen selected. So now I'm going to do my horizontal line right here, and I want it to stop right there. So there we go. A great thing to let your kids know if they're plotting lines or whatever shape they may be doing in geometry, for example, that all they have to do on their Chromebook before they start drawing that line is to hold the shift key, put the shift key down, okay? I'll start right here again. And then it creates this nice straight line for them. And it even kind of gives you an idea right here in this little dot of where it's going to end. So it's a really easy way to do great straight lines, okay? Okay, so that was the last one of my tips and tricks, and now let's get into some other ideas. Jamboard plus Desmos. I cannot say that I know everything about Desmos, but I think it's a great tool, and I know a lot of you are experts in Desmos, and it's one of those tools that's on the DSA, so we love that. So you can actually use Desmos and use the export as a picture option to incorporate Desmos into your Jamboard ideas. So for example, I'm over here in Desmos and I've chosen the graphing calculator and I have this image right here that I'm working on. Okay, so all I need to do is just go right here to the share option. One of those options is to export the image. So I select that. You can change the thickness of your line. So that's kind of a nice thing. Okay. And then you just simply select to download it as a PNG. Okay. And once I do that, I can go ahead and choose where I want to save that. And let's say that I want to have that saved on my desktop. And I'm going to do math test. Okay, so I've saved that image. Once I do that, I go back into my Jamboard and again use the add image. Uploading it now from my desktop where I have saved it. There it is right there. Okay, it inserts nicely into my Jamboard. Just like before, as I said, if you stretch them out really, really far, it may be a little bit pixelated, but it looks like this one's actually great and really clear, so yay, Desmos. Again, students could write on top of this. They can move it around, so it's not like it's set in stone like a background, but they could write on top of this if they wanted to, or if you're sharing it with them where they can actually edit it, or of course you could use this to demonstrate something, whether you are teaching them live or it is something that you have recorded, okay? So Geogebra also works with Jamboard, which is awesome. So here I am in Geogebra, and I actually went to their little waffle, and I have chosen geometry. I'm going to go in and just make some sort of a shape here. And let's make a triangle shape in the middle of some sort. Okay. All right, so if I'm all done, I'm ready to, I want this to somehow be in my Jamboard. I'm going to go right here to, I believe you have to save it first. Okay, and once you save it, you can go to share. Nope, I'm going to cancel that. Got ahead of myself. You can go to export image, okay? And similar to Desmos, you just simply download that, okay? Now I have it again where my images open up in Paint. I just prefer Paint to other apps to open up images. And I'm going to save this again to my desktop. And this will be Math Test 2. Okay. Same thing, going back to my Jamboard, and I'm going to upload my picture. It's on my desktop. It is Math Test 2. There it is right there, open. Takes it just a minute to think, and there is my image. And again, you can move that around wherever you would like. You can make it the entire Jamboard if you want to, and then you can go in and write over that however you would like, okay? So a cool thing, again, that you have that ability to use images from Geogebra with Jamboard. I'm assuming that Geogebra is one of those things that you are using. Geogebra is also on the DSA, so a great combination there. All right, just a side note, because I know some people are into Bitmojis. If you have the Bitmoji Chrome extension, then you actually can just add these easily into your Jamboard. So you just simply drag and drop. So let's find a cool math one. Math and the devil, that's not right. Okay, so for example, if you want to do this one right here, you just drag it right in and you can put it wherever you would like. Tilt it, all that good stuff, duplicate it however you would like. Kind of a cool thing there if you're into the Bitmojis. Okay? Alrighty, now duplicate and collaborate. This is one that I really like. So great for if you are working with small groups, and by that I mean maybe you had a Google Meet and only 3 kids show up, which is really frustrating, but you know what? Use those 3 kids. You can take one single problem, duplicate it, share this link in Classroom where all the kids can work on it at the same time, okay? So here's an example. Let's say, for example, that this is your problem right here, okay? So I'm going to pull down the frame bar here to expand it so we can take a look at it in this way. Let me just double check how many total frames do I have. Okay, so I don't have 20, so I can actually show you this real quick. And remember, 20 is your max, so you couldn't have more than 20 frames in one Jamboard. But you can make 2 Jamboards with 40 frames if you needed to do that, okay? So all I'm going to do is simply duplicate. I'm duplicating, duplicating, duplicating the same problem. So I might go in and let's say that I have 10 students that I'm working with, okay? So I might make 10 duplications of this and assign it. Hey guys, I'm about to post a link in Classroom. We're in our Google Meet right now. I'm going to go over to Classroom real quick and post a link. I have shared this link where you all can work on at the same time. And again, you would just change it to anyone in this group with the link can edit. Okay. And you would copy that link and put it in Classroom. You could put it on the stream as you're teaching live. And then all they would need to do at that point is know what number was assigned to them. So, Tom, you're going to be an 8. Remember that. Rashid, you're going to be a 9. Sarah, you're 10. Stacy, you're 11. And Amir, you are 12, okay? And as they are working on that, you'll be able to see in real time, if you open it up again this way, you'll be able to see them in real time working on that problem, okay? Let's say, for example, that you see something going on and you're like, I want to end this. I don't want anybody writing on this anymore. All you have to do is go to share and you go to change and then you change it back to viewer. Once you change it to viewer, it's locked. Nobody can put anything on there anymore. They can view it, but just like a PDF, they can't write on it, okay? So you can change that in a heartbeat. So a great idea, again, for duplicating and collaborating in real time. Great for small groups, great for e-learning, great for our virtual students. Okay, just to kind of button this up, I'm going to go through and delete those real quick because I don't need them. Okay, moving on to our next idea, which is assign weekly or by unit. So again, you could create a Jamboard, and let's say that you have 3 assignments for the week. You could add 3 frames, create the one Jamboard for that week or for that unit, and then just like I showed you before, assign it in Classroom as make a copy for each student, okay? They can work on it during the week and it's there, it's ready to go, and it's one place where you can see their work on all those different problems, okay? All right. So again, we talked about synchronous and asynchronous. Of course, this would be more of the asynchronous learning, but of course, Jamboard is a great partner when you are recording instructional videos, whether it is with Screencastify or with Loom or with Screencast-O-Matic or anything, recording a Google Meet, recording yourself instructing through a Zoom that you then downloaded as an MP4 and put it into your Google Classroom. Whatever tool you use to instruct with, Jamboard, think about that as your digital whiteboard, okay? What's the advantage of using it to demonstrate something in math as opposed to Active Inspire? They're both very powerful tools. I think the powerful thing for me with Jamboard is that then after you demonstrate it, you might could go out and share that, share it as a link so they could go back and look at the problems, or share it as make a copy for each student so then they could go in and put their own feedback there. So, but a great combination if you are recording instructional videos, okay? Another idea with Jamboard, maybe you're brainstorming in math class, maybe you're talking about vocabulary, that sort of thing. But if you're looking for any type of back channel, you just want feedback on how class went that day, you could certainly use a Jamboard in that way. Now, again, I know it's a little scary for some of us to make it where anyone could edit. It's almost like using a Padlet in a way, if you've ever used Padlet before. But basically, you could create a Jamboard with lots of these little sticky notes there. You could even put the kids' names on them, and then they could grab their sticky. So, for example, if this one says Bob Smith, okay, and you tell them, go in and find your sticky note and give me an idea. And I'm going to know because I'm going to see whose sticky note is still sitting there at the end of the day today. You share it out where it's anyone with the link can edit it. And you just do that for the entire school day. And then by the end of the day, you go back in and change it back to viewer so their time is up. That's a great idea to crowdsource your ideas, brainstorm, get feedback, any sort of thing that you would like to do with multiple students at one time, okay? Okay, so some more ideas. Would you like a few more ideas? I am going to share this out with you in just a moment. But the next 3 slides, when you get this, are actually hyperlinked to some different articles. This one's called How to Use Google Jamboard for Distance Learning. There's one called 10 Google Jamboard Activities. And then finally, 10 Ways to Use Jamboard in Your Classroom. So those are even more ideas than we discussed today. But I want to actually put it on you in just a moment. Now, before we do that, copy this bit.ly down if you have a spare piece of paper or sticky right next to you, or if you want to just jot it down in a Google Doc in a different tab. It's a bit.ly/30 lowercase r, uppercase WV, lowercase IH. Again, that's bit.ly/30 lowercase r, uppercase WV, lowercase IH. Jot that down. That is a link to today's presentation. Okay, so now it is your turn. I got one more bit.ly for you, and then I'm done, I promise. Okay, we're going to go back to our math ideas here and copy this bit.ly down. Okay, and I'm going to say this one to you again. I know, I'm annoying you. It's bit.ly/, so bit.ly/33 lowercase l, that's a L, uppercase IK X4. Again, that's 33 lowercase l, uppercase IK X4. When you go to this link, you will see this. So now it is your turn. What I would like you to do is create a sticky, okay, with your idea for how you might use Jamboard in the math classroom. Okay, so add your idea here. You can make it anonymous if you want to, or you can add your name to your sticky note, or you could add what class it's for, like Algebra 1 or Geometry or Statistics. So let's do some crowdsourcing of our own and add some ideas here on this Jamboard. So you can see what it's like to work on a Jamboard collaboratively. So lots of people working on it at one time, and also to have some ideas to share. And again, that's going to be hyperlinked right here at the end of this presentation, okay? Any questions, make sure you let me know about Jamboard, and thank you so much for your attention today.